sunny. Yesterday my life was filled with rain. Sonny, you smiled at me and really eased the pain. My dark days are
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz singer and pianist Dena DeRose. We caught up with her in late May 2020 to talk about projects and the new COVID-19 world of no live jazz. She has accumulated an impressive list of performance credits from legendary clubs around the world and playing with the likes of Ray Brown, Clark Terry, Marian McPartland, Benny Golson, John Scofield, and so many others. She's got really good stories. Dig it. Dena, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Sure. So how's everything going in your part of the world?
Everything is to the new normal. You have to wear masks, but everything's open. And Austria actually fared quite well in this. I mean, considering some other countries, but out of 8 million people, I think 600 died or something. So it's not so bad, and we're faring well here with online teaching.
Good deal. Well, yeah. I figured now's a good time to talk about music and what's going on. So let's kind of talk a little bit about when did you start realizing we were entering this new world and gigs were getting canceled? Kind of what was your story?
Well, I just remember being at the university and doing some, my lessons, and the sort of a secretary of the jazz office came to the room. I guess they were going room to room and saying that today was our last day. And so starting March 12th, I think it was a Wednesday, you'll be teaching from home. And that was that, and it's been since March 12th. I've been quarantined. Well, we were here pretty much for, I think, 6 or, almost 8 weeks, yeah. Long enough.
Yeah, totally.
But, but I've enjoyed the time at home. I usually travel quite a lot, and to be here really since February even, is just, for me, it's a luxury, and it's been beautiful time at home. So, yeah.
Well, let's get back to the beginnings of your life. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised, and kind of how jazz became your life.
Well, music became my life really young. I was about 3 years old when I started piano lessons, and continued on through my high school years all the way right to the end. I think it was 18 when I finished private lessons with a teacher I had for, more than 8 years, the last teacher. And I switched between organ, so classical organ, theater organ, and I was learning on an A1, beautiful organ, and piano. So summers, winters, different seasons, I switched back and forth with lessons with her. And, got into bands at 13, playing in weddings and bat mitzvahs and all kinds of, state fair, stuff like that. And then getting into rock bands and cover bands and all kinds of things. And at the same time, in high school, I sort of was asked to play in the stage band. Back then, that was our jazz band. That's what they called it. And I really didn't know anything about jazz. I could read anything, so that was good, because a lot of times the junior high and high school stage bands have these charts, like Neil Hefti and the really early sort of tunes that all bands play at that age. All the piano parts were written out, so I could read the voicings and just put some rhythm to it and comp. So that was really my first experiences with it, and I loved it. I was also, again, still playing in rock bands and pop bands and going on the road for a good year or so with a show band, pop show band. So it was like a different life. But I always loved jazz and always listened to it a lot from my teen years, and knew that I think I was about 19 years old. I was on the road with a pop band, and I gave my notice because I just felt I had to go home and work on jazz. So that's what I did, and did that for a couple of years, and had some hand problems throughout that time frame. So then I started to sing because I couldn't play. And then once my right hand had a couple of surgeries, carpal tunnel syndrome and arthritis. And then once those were finished, I just naturally went to sing and play. I had been singing for 2.5 years, standing up with a jazz trio in my hometown of Binghamton, New York. Forgot to mention that. And from there, when I started to play again, about less than a year after that, I moved to New York and just started gigging, playing and singing mainly. A lot of solo work, some duo, trio. Yeah, and it was just a great experience. New York was my university because I didn't go to school for jazz or didn't really have. I had one piano teacher during high school that showed me 2-5-1s and some scales and modes, but that was about it. And then mainly self-taught, and I'd say all the great musicians I was able to play with in New York really taught me a lot. Also, I had the privilege of playing with really great rhythm sections and horn players, and yeah, so question?
Just like what kind of memories are coming to mind now that we don't have live jazz, now that you're not on the stage? Are there any memories that are coming up, good, fond memories that you've had over the years in different parts of the world with different musicians?
Yeah, I mean, I luckily and thankfully am surrounded by great musicians. All my rhythm sections everywhere. And even if I'm only singing, sometimes, pianists in the big bands will play sometimes and I stand. But memories, well, I mean, one of my biggest and greatest memories is singing with Ray Brown at Stanford Jazz Festival. And that was, I think, about 20 years ago or so. But, that was a camp. It's actually a jazz workshop, weeks of that, and a festival all at the same time. And it goes on for a month. And I've been teaching out there for about 23 years. And that was really one of the highlights in my life when it comes to traveling, going somewhere, having that opportunity. And, yeah, the Red Sea Jazz Festival, I remember that one. On stage, I had Elliot Zigman on drums and Chris Berger on bass, I think it was. And looking out off the stage, you look at the Red Sea, and you see Jordan on one side, Egypt on the other, and you're in Israel. It was really a beautiful. I mean, the venue was about 10,000 people with the big screens and everything, like a major festival. It was one of my first of those types of high-end festivals, and that I miss too. That would be a good thing to do again.
Yeah, totally. So what do you like the best about being a performer?
Sharing the music and the fun and the deepness and the sorrows and the melancholic feelings and the swinging hard rock and feelings with people that it sort of we feed off the audience, they feed off of us. It's just this beautiful sort of circular kind of energy in the room. And I've done 2 house concerts through this coronavirus time, live streams on Facebook, and it's just not the same. I know the people are out there listening, but it's really difficult to try to feel their energy when you don't hear anything, and you're just sitting there by yourself playing. So I think I miss that the most, the sharing and just having a really positive time together with people that all like the same thing,
Sure. So
yeah.
How did you end up in your hometown that you're in right now? What was your path there?
My path here was about almost 15 years ago now, 2006, so 14. I was offered to apply for the professorship for jazz voice here in Graz, and It was from two separate people who had experience in Graz. One was teaching there already, and one that teaches at the Berklee School of Music, and would come over here and do workshops a lot. And they both heard that there was an open audition for this position and that I should apply. And at that time, I hadn't seen either one of these guys in years, maybe even, 7 to 8, 9 years. And they both called the same day just saying, you should do this. The deadline is like next week. So I had to sort of put a whole CV together, a whole, bio and all this stuff. And I had that for my performing, but I didn't really have it for my teaching. I was teaching a lot in New York at 5, 6 different schools as adjunct, and never really needed that at all. People usually just said, "Do you want to come teach for us?" And then I did. So this position here was quite an experience to go through because it's a full-on audition. You have to teach 3 levels of students in front of a commission and an audience, pretty much. Anybody can see these auditions. And you have to perform a 30-minute set and do the history of your instrument in, I think it's 45-minute lecture. So it's a lot to prepare for, and this was, within months I probably would have to audition. So it wasn't a lot of prep time, and I was on the road a lot. So that was just a lot of turbulent time there. And when the calls came, I thought about it. I thought, geez, living in Europe, I don't know if I want to leave New York. I mean, I was getting a little tired of New York, I have to say. I was not tired of New York, but tired in New York. I was working a lot and traveling a lot to Europe already by then, and it just seemed like, well, maybe it could be good. So I auditioned, got the position, and was given a 5-year contract with the option of tenure after that. So it was wild to move over here now that I look back. And I was traveling a lot then, back and forth to the States a lot more because I still had gigs that I had booked, for certain things and wanted to keep them. So thankfully they were the weekends. So that's the life. And the city that I live outside of is Graz. I just live in a little village outside, and it's sort of almost country, but suburb now because it's growing here, population-wise.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to the end of this pandemic, and when we do, and we perform, when the fans get back in the crowd and musicians get back on stage, what do you hope we realize about this absence of live jazz?
What do I hope? Well, I think this is not going to be the last time that this happens. We're going to have to do this again with whatever viruses are coming in the future. To some degree, maybe it'll get curbed to a shorter amount of time, but whatever. It might go that way in life. So, when we get back to whatever normal is and we start gigging again, I guess I would hope that people, even though watching YouTube and Netflix, all those whatever things about jazz or listening to jazz or watching jazz videos and seeing live concerts even there, it's really not the same. And I know they know it, but I just hope that they support live arts in general, maybe more than they did before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially jazz. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and there's a lot of different styles of jazz for people to even get into now. So, it's like it just needs a little more support. Being America's, music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, everyone has their perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, and your students, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are?
Oh, who do I think? Well, I don't know. What you with these questions? Well, I'm definitely an artist who seeks to bring positivity and goodness through my music to whomever listens, or I'm teaching, or whatever. I guess that's first and foremost what I think I am. And I think when someone does have something that they can really put their passion into, that other parts of their lives sort of follow suit.
Yeah.
Depending on the personality, but in my life, that's who I am. So.
Final question for you is this: if you have a dream tonight, you run into your younger self around the time you started performing, and you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would steal it from Clark Terry, but keep it on. Yeah. Just sort of keep moving forward. Don't let things in the past drag you down.
Right on. Perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for I love it. Thank you for taking some time out for Neon Jazz today. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it, Joe.
And before you go, I'd love to keep you in front of my audience. Would you mind doing a quick plug for my radio show?
I would love to. You know what? I thought of it, too. I mean, did you know that I have a new record coming out?
Yes.
Okay. Because we didn't mention that at all.
Well,
but
let's
anyhow.
Yeah, well, let's do this. And I didn't know how close you were with talking about it. So let's do this before we get off here, and I can stitch this in. I think this is kind of my thoughts on the recording. Is it's a unique time for this to come out, and it's, people have the latitude to listen a little bit more to music, but you can't back it up live. Talk to me a little bit about your feelings on this release.
I'm really excited about this one. I have my rhythm section of 17 plus years, Martin Wind and Matt Wilson. And we have 3 special guests, which I just adore. They're all some of my great friends and, the musicians, high level. The great Sheila Jordan is going to sing with me on a few tunes. And Houston Person is on a couple of songs, the saxophonist, and Jeremy Pelt on trumpet. So we did a lot of songs that the title is Ode to the Road, which is ironic because we aren't on the road at the moment, and we won't be able to tour this music really much, but until we get back to something. And I just feel that the songs I chose sort of reflect where I am pretty strongly, which is veering slightly off of the usual jazz standards and finding unique, sort of newly composed, if not in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or into the 2000s, songs by jazz composers in the style, sort of the Great American Songbook. And they're really cool tunes, so I hope people are going to dig it.
Right on. I have no doubt they will.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in California, New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Dena for her time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.